When a woman pulls back, most men go through this weird cycle, right? She pulls back, then they cannot stop thinking of her, they become anxious, and they cannot stop checking their phone constantly to see if she fucking finally texted them. And then they start doing what they shouldn't be doing, and guess what? It makes things worse until they eventually get dumped. My name is Gene. I've coached over 200 men. I've been with several hundreds of women, and I've been also in 4 long-term relationships. And I discovered that there are basically 5 mistakes that men make when she pulls away that make things worse. Now, the good news is that if you do exactly what I'm going to teach you in this video in the next couple of minutes, not only will she stop pulling back, but she will actually start reaching out again. She will want to spend more time with you. She will hold your hand or even initiate sex. And very, very, very likely, man, she'll be way more emotionally attached and in love with you again. Now, you might be one of the guys who have at least experienced it like once, where you've been seeing a woman for like a few months or even like a few years, like you thought she is the one, right? And she was affectionate, she sent you good morning messages, she told you she can't wait to see you again, and she misses you, right? And then over time, she just goes colder. And suddenly the good morning messages stop. The affection stop. Now, you might think that when a woman pulls back, it's random. And I'm sure you think that women are irrational and they do not make any sense. Well, I actually thought so too until I researched female behavior. And man, I gotta admit, women are super simple. They are not complex. But you gotta understand their psychology, which I'm going to explain to you now. So why does a woman pull back? So 99% of the time it's because for 2 reasons, and actually both are unconscious reasons. Yeah. So either she pulls back because she's testing you. And testing refers to like how congruent are your actions with who you say you are. Yeah, I call this a congruence test. And this congruence test exists because she wants to make sure she's with a man that is competent and safe because, I mean, she's the childbearer, right? So aka the human being carrying a baby inside of her for 9 months. So she stands to lose more than a man who can just fucking nut in her and then get the milk and never fucking come back, right? Now, you might be wondering, okay, but why does she not simply ask? Well, Sherlock, I mean, if a woman would ask you if you're reliable, emotionally grounded, and I mean, of course you would say yes, right? Even if you aren't. Like, I mean, think about it. When was the last time you went to a job interview and you were 100% honest with HR? I mean, come on, bro, let's be honest here. For that specific reason, women do not rely on testing your honesty through like questions, but by pushing your buttons, because actions speak louder than words, man. And one of these tests is actually pulling back. I mentioned there are 2 reasons. The second reason why she might pull back is because of some of your actions might have triggered her what I call, or what is known to be, the avoidant attachment style, yeah? So if you've never heard of avoidant attachment, it's like sleeping fully dressed because deep down you're like preparing to run away the second someone gets too close in bed, right? So fundamentally, however, it doesn't really matter if it's a test or she's avoidantly attached. What matters most is how you respond when she pulls back. Now, what I see 95% of my clients is that like when a woman pulls back, they start acting like what I call a fucking Kevin. So Kevin behavior is like any action or habit that is unattractive and coming from a place of like desperation. Yeah, and that behavior kills attraction fast, man. It's like an instant turn. And every of the 5 mistakes that I'm about to outline are Kevin behaviors. So for example, I was working with this client, let's call him James. Yeah, he's 40, successful guy, very, very assertive at work, very confident. So, and he's been married for, I think 9 years. Yeah. And out of nowhere, his wife said like, she needs to talk, classic. And she said, oh, I need space. So when he came to me, he was obviously in a bad mental state, right? He was anxious and he felt like a bit broken. And he had already tried therapy, he had done couples counseling, and obviously neither worked. So I was sort of somewhat his last resort. And I wish he would have come to me sooner because he fucked up a lot of things with counseling and therapy, right? The mistake that he made is what I call reassurance overload. And that's the mistake number 1 that a lot of men make. So his wife is avoidantly attached and she said that she needs space, right? It's a sign of avoidance. And his brain, unfortunately, translated that into, oh, she doesn't know I love her, so I need to show her. And then he started over communicating, right? He bombarded her with like messages telling how much he like loves her, that they can fix this together and that they can co-regulate, as they call it, and that he loves her. And it would be a huge mistake to like require some space. I mean, it's like, if you think about it, man, it's like, imagine you're at a restaurant, right? And you just finished an amazing steak. You're satiated, you're full, right? You don't need anything else. You can't take anymore. And then imagine you're sitting there chilling. You're like, oh my gosh, this was an amazing steak. And then the waiter comes and asks you like, hey, bro, do you want another steak? And then again, what about now? And are you sure? it's really good. I mean, look at the steak, it's amazing. And at some point, bro, you're gonna be like, bro, can you fucking shut up, man? Like, leave me alone. I'm full. I don't want more steak. And that's exactly how his wife felt when he bombarded her with reassurances of his love. She already knows he loves him. She experienced it for years, but she is full of it. She does not want more. You gotta understand, like when she's avoidantly attached, she's already suffocated by the love bombing, right? Like the constant messages, the constant love reassurance, like that just pushes her away. And if she's testing you in that moment as a result of her being avoidantly attached, she views you as a fucking Kevin because you just demonstrated to her that you cannot live without her, that you're willing to sacrifice your self-respect because you need her. And that's just fucking unattractive, man. And that leads me to the second mistake that a lot of my other clients made before they joined my program, actually. And this is what I call asymmetric responses. Now, the second mistake that a lot of my other clients used to make is something that I call asymmetric responses. What do I mean by that? Let's take an example of one of my clients. So one of my clients, he was seeing a woman for like a couple of months, and over time, she started pulling away. Yeah? Like he was really into her. Like he was carefully planning amazing date nights with her, like rooftop bars, fancy restaurants, yada, yada, yada. But over time, she got colder. Dates, for example, she would check her phone more often. She reached out less, right? And also she asked less often, like, hey, how are you doing? So generally, she was just less proactive. Now, here's what really actually killed the attraction. Like, initially, I told him, hey, man, like, match her energy, yeah? I believe that she's either testing you or she's avoidantly attached, so give her space. That space will allow her nervous system to calm down, and then she will start missing you, which he did. He gave her space. And the space he gave her made him look independent, right? And confident and non-needy. But, and here's the mistake, when she eventually reached out, which is great, she reached out, he went full Kevin. Like, she messaged him like just a simple message, how are you? And he completely nuked it. He bombarded her with like 10 messages, like, I'm amazing. I'm so glad you reached out. I already had this idea of checking out this rooftop next week, and then I can take you shopping, we can grab dinner, and blah, blah, blah. That one message, that one generic message of hers, like completely like made his frame collapse because her attention was his oxygen. And this kind of asymmetric response, yeah, like she gives 2%, he gives 160%. That fundamentally reveals the like lack of self-worth in him. Because a man with self-worth, yeah, like with self-respect, like what I call a man that I call Hercules, he stays like the same, right? Like before and after she texts. His self-worth does not depend on her fucking messages. However, when you're in your Kevin energy, like one text can sort of create this cascade of emotions in you. And that means that your self-worth and that your self-confidence and your happiness has been outsourced to her. And when you put yourself into the perspective of a woman that is being with a Kevin, yeah? Like when he starts love bombing her, it's like it's like going to a shop, right? You want to buy like one nice pair of chinos, for example, and you ask the assistant, hey, can you help me? And then you just tell her, I just want this one chino, and she comes back with like 10 other fucking items. Like, oh, you should wear this jumper and this shirt and this blazer. And it's off-putting because you feel like she's so pushy, and it's also an invasion of personal space as well as completely disrespectful because you told her like, hey, I'm just looking for this chino. And when that happens, you close up. It's like the same when a woman reaches out again after like, I don't know, you've given her space, and then you start love bombing her with like text after text, and you dump all your emotions on her. Like you push her into what I call like a protective state. A protective state is fundamentally triggered and activated when she feels unsafe. And the woman feels unsafe around a man that lacks any emotional composure because it makes her feel like she's with a little boy, like a 6-year-old Kevin, but not like a mature Hercules. Now that leads me to mistake number 3 that a lot of men make, and I call this mistake the Amex law. So I was working with a guy called, let's call him Andreas, yeah, and he was vice president of a Fortune 500 company, like makes good amount of money, multiple 6 figures per year, right? Very assertive leader, yeah. But he tried using the money that he was earning to keep a woman attracted. So every time the relationship went downhill, right, he splashed his Amex, yeah, on an expensive spa trip or holiday to Europe, yeah, or the next 5-star resort, whatever, right? And they went together, but he was all excited, you know, they were spending time together. He was hoping for more sex, more affection, but guess what happened? Nothing. Actually, it wasn't just nothing. They actually started fighting. They just relocated the fights and the problem, to a new location. And the reason why my client was doing this was because he was conditioned by this toxic Hollywood provider conditioning, right? That reduces attraction to a transaction. Like, it fundamentally says, like, I provide you with a lifestyle, and in return, I will get love and affection. I mean, how low IQ is that thinking? It literally reduces you to a living wallet, man. Like, you got to understand that desire cannot be negotiated, right? It can only be triggered. It can only be evoked. And it is evoked and triggered by being charismatic, like what I call playfully cocky, witty, and funny, man. So instead of splashing your Amex on like expensive trips and relying on those expensive trips to make her see how great you are, right? Which is the ultimate Kevin move, you should invest into what I would call a sophisticated skill acquisition, aka becoming a Hercules, aka becoming charming, charismatic, and witty. Now, the question obviously is, how did we turn around the situation with my client Andreas? So first of all, we cut off the liquidity source, basically. So we stopped using his Amex to buy attraction. And then instead, we focused on integrating what I call his orange masculine energy, which is sort of the playful, witty, masculine side of yours. So in my program, we have specific role plays where I teach the guys how to flirt over text, right, in person, and how to keep things spicy in long-term relationships. Because like a lot of guys, they never learned this skill. They just like think telling a woman that she's beautiful is flirting, but it's not. They think like buying things, providing a lifestyle is making you attractive or is sexy and charismatic, but it's not, right? Even if you just tell her, oh, you're so beautiful, that is a compliment. That is not a flirt. And how long until she gets tired of hearing how beautiful she is? Like, you can only listen to the same fucking song on repeat for so long, right? So instead, like, you need to ask yourself, okay, so how can I actually learn how to flirt? How can I become a Hercules that flirts in everyday situations and using boring conversations to my advantage? So I'm going to show you obviously a fucking example. Somewhere on the screen, I'm going to put up like a text message that Sandra sent me. It was just a generic message that I use to flirt. So she said, oh, by the way, we have 3 flies and a mosquito last night. Hercules needs to be back. So I was I think in Dubai at that time, and Sandra was back home in Marbella. Or the typical boring Kevin ass response would be like, oh, I can't wait to be back. I miss you, babe, and blah, 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 blah. All this lovey-dovey stuff, right? Don't get me wrong. Lovey-dovey stuff is okay if it is balanced with the flirting kind of things, right? So how would you respond as a Hercules to this message? Well, you start reading between the lines. Like, what does she infer when she sends me this text? Well, that she misses me. And then you just say it out loud, just the way I did. Cute way of telling me that you're missing me. Do you see how different the frame here is? And you wonder why this is so attractive. Because it creates sexual tension in the conversation. It creates this emotional stimuli in her, which is a woman's oxygen. One of my clients came up with the most genius response because I used these kind of texting messages or texting examples in my interactive role plays to help my clients or teach my clients like how to come up with like creative responses. She said something along the lines like, well, it sounds like there's more than one thing that's going to get spanked tonight. It's genius because it carries so much sub-communication. Now, with that being said, let's look at the next mistake that a lot of men make, which is what I call Kevin kneeling. So at the moment, I've got a client who's deeply, deeply in his Kevin energy, which means he's like fundamentally sorry for merely existing. So his girlfriend pulled back, right? She said she needed a bit more space. And yeah, it's because she's heavily in her avoidant attachment at the moment, right? So she moved out and I got him to a point to like not text proactively, right? And let her miss him, yada, 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 which worked because she has asked to meet up a couple of times. But that's where the Kevin kneeling like started to happen and occur with him. So what happened? Like, my client is very anxious, right? And as a result, his empathy and compassion basically has zero fucking boundaries. That means like when she is like unhappy about something that he does, he assumes he must have done something wrong. And then he automatically apologizes. Sorry, babe, I didn't mean to upset you. Or sorry, I was just trying to be helpful. Like, this guy has zero fucking self-respect. And I'm not shaming or judging him, right? It's just sad to see a man in this kind of position, especially when he's successful. And this stems from trauma from a childhood, right? Like, his mom apparently never told him he's good enough, right? So he's like really looking for like a female approval. And he's letting that sort of past ruin his present and also his future, because he's still living into the story that if a woman is upset, it must be his fault. And I told him, man, like, man, what message does it send to her when you apologize for like merely existing or breathing? You're basically taking the knee every single time, and like she's saying something, you metaphorically, like she's looking down at you. But a woman, however, she cannot respect the man she has to look down to or look down at. So I asked him, like, explain to me, man, like, why does her emotional reaction to your mood determine the rightness of your action? Like, only because she's upset doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong or you've done something bad. Like, for how long do you want to live into the story, man? For how long do you want to take responsibility for her mood? Like, when you apologize every time she feels like something bad, you're telling her basically that her emotional mood and her emotional state is more important than yourself. And the issue here is that when you act like a Kevin, like apologizing too fast for things that weren't even your fucking fault, like a woman subconsciously, she starts feeling like three things, man. He's scared of me. He can't stand up to me. So he will never, ever be able to stand up for me. And I'm the leader. And all these feelings, these thoughts, they violate her prime desire for safety and leadership. And like, those are things she's basically wired and biologically wired to look for in a man. When you deny her that experience of those primal desires, she's turned off fast, man. And she's gonna dump you sooner or later. So that's what I told him. And right now we're working on rebuilding his self-respect, right? Without self-respect, there's no point in focusing on charisma, because like charisma is built on self-respect. So self-respect is the foundation. But if that foundation is built on quicksand, there's no fucking point. So how are we rebuilding his self-respect? We're using a 3-step approach with him. First, we establish a vision for the man he wants to become, yeah? Like, which is Hercules. So what would your Hercules version look like? How would he act? How would he behave? What are his 10, let's say, commandments he wants to live by? For example, my personal ones are like, love without boundaries is self-deletion, yeah? I will never let fear dictate my actions. Now with him, after he had written down his 10 commandments, right, he wants to live by, we also looked into the trigger. Like, any action we do as human beings is fundamentally like driven by an emotion, right? And which is considered a trigger. And an emotion is simply, in my point of view, a call to action. So that means when there is an emotion that you experience, there is a lesson or a growth opportunity. In order to unlock this growth opportunity, you gotta ask yourself a couple of questions, which you do by journaling. So for example, you can ask yourself, okay, what exact feelings am I experiencing right now? Is it fear? Is it shame? Is it like fear of judgment, fear of rejection? Where do I feel it in my body, right? And once you understand what you're feeling and where this comes from, we start reprogramming the behavior, right? Like by installing what I call a circuit breaker. And we do that by using a question that you ask yourself every time you get triggered. And that question is like, what would Hercules do right now? Again, as I said, Hercules is the ideal man that you're training to become. And that question is so powerful because it instantly pulls you or him out of this Kevin energy, right? And it pulls you back into this grounded, sort of self-respecting, rational kind of version of yourself, which is emotionally anchored. Because right now, all we got to do is reprogram an old pattern. And we can only do that by consciously choosing our response to whatever is happening in the external environment. And the question that I've given you, what would Hercules do, just simply holds up the mirror to what's happening in the environment and how you're responding. So that leads me to the next mistake that shows up in a lot of men when a woman pulls away, and that's usually the final nail in the what I call the attraction coffin, right? And it all comes from one place: being terrified of losing her. So I was working with this client who was a Navy SEAL, like real tough nut, yeah. But the moment he was with a woman, like the woman he found attractive, he loved, right? Man, this guy turned from the Hercules Navy SEAL to like Kevin, the damsel in distress. I mean, it was crazy. So what happened? Let me tell you. Like a lot of times when this girl that he was seeing and he agreed to meet up, like she used to cancel us. He responded with like, oh, no worries. I totally understand that you're busy. Like, when are you free again? When can I see you? Even saying this out loud makes me like cringe. Like, when can I see you again? If you translate it into womanese, here's what she hears. You can push me around. You can treat me like a fucking peasant. Doesn't matter, because my emotional well-being depends on seeing you. So please, 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 please grant me permission to see you. Please continue treating me like a piece of shit. That is textbook Kevin energy that is primarily driven by fear. It's considered empathy and compassion, but empathy and compassion without a backbone, again, as I said, self-deletion. He was so afraid to set a boundary with her and say like, hey, you can't stop like pushing me around like that he completely abandoned like his self-respect. Like, how attractive do you think it is to not have any boundaries? to not put her like in her place. Every woman wants to feel that masculine resistance. And if you do not provide her that masculine resistance, like that's a 17 on a scale of 10 on the needy scale. It literally screams, I cannot exist without you. In her eyes, he completely shattered his, like, let's call it sexual market value, like the attraction value that he had, because he became fundamentally infinitely available and lacked any backbone to tell her that her behavior is not okay. Like most men, and myself included back in the days, because I was raised by my grandma, right? I've been told, or us men, we've been told to like treat women like princesses, yeah? To love them unconditionally, to never make them upset, yada, yada, yada. That's total bullshit, because love must not come at the expense or sacrifice of your self-respect. Why? Because attraction does not care about morals. Attraction is built through sexual tension, yeah? And sexual tension only exists when, like, you as the man stay rooted, like anchored in or to your fucking like masculine energy, man, to your masculine backbone. And the moment she pulls back and you let her like string you along with zero consequences, like fundamentally you're teaching her that she sits above you. Like you are pedestalizing her. And the second she feels above you, the respect collapses, bro. A woman simply cannot be attracted to a man that has negative self-respect, bro. And the subcommunication here is that your attention is worthless. But you gotta understand that anything of value is scarce. Six-packs are attractive because they are scarce. If anyone would have a six-pack, no one would care. So when you disconnect, let's say, your attention and availability from her behavior, meaning no matter what she does, you'll be there, you'll make yourself available, like your like attraction value becomes worthless because it's not scarce, it's infinite. And as I said earlier, like a woman wants to feel this masculine resistance, this masculine backbone, because only that makes her feel safe. If you can't even set a fucking boundary with her, like then that conveys that you're fucking Kevin, a doormat who won't be able to protect her. That is low status behavior. And I know, like, if you look at Ted Mosby and How I Met Your Mother, or Leonard in what's it called, Big Bang Theory, like they've conditioned you to believe that you can please yourself into a woman's like panties or into her heart, like that she'll love you like no matter like how pleasing you are. But it's literally fiction, bro. Love and attraction do not follow this romantic Hollywood narrative. They follow biology, psychology, and primal human drives. Yeah, so real attraction and real love are not self-sacrifice. That's bullshit. Romeo and Juliet, like, is not a love story. It's two people dying because of love. So the question obviously is, how did I coach my client out of this kind of Kevin behavior? So we sat down, right? And we wrote down like a list of non-negotiables. Like, what are behaviors that are simply unacceptable? Because I asked him, like, if your best friend would like constantly cancel on you, leave you on red, or like string you along red, how long would you like be best friends with this person? And if you aren't ready to cut him off, like, why? What makes this human being so special that you put them above your own dignity? Because fundamentally, that's the fucking real question here, right? Why is she or that other human being more important than you are? You know, compassion if you have to sacrifice all your self-respect and dignity to keep them around. That's toxic, man. So with him, obviously, because he's fucking smart, he's a Navy SEAL, he realized very quickly that he was pedestalizing her, and then he started to like show up the way he showed up as a SEAL. He showed up the same way in his relationship, and that made her come back and actually respect him more. Now, you will face the following challenge, that once she comes back, right, and once you start turning her on more, right, you want to know how you fundamentally keep her turned on. If you click on the next video, you'll find out all the things that turn women on in long-term relationships.